Hello,
I'm Julian.
I am Coach Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here once again to talk about Season 3 of Ted Lasso. This is Episode 6, which is called Sunflowers. And it's called Sunflowers because this whole episode is in Amsterdam, and sunflowers have something to do with Amsterdam.
I don't think so. I think more tulips is the flower I would associate with Amsterdam, but I guess the Van Gogh painting of sunflowers would be the reasoning for the naming convention.
Sure. I was confused. I'm a sunflower seed guy, but not a sunflower guy. So, Tom, have you been to... let me rephrase. Your Honor, let me rephrase. Tom, how many times have you been to Amsterdam?
I, unfortunately, have not visited Amsterdam. Actually, when I was a kid playing youth soccer, we actually had a chance, if we would have won a specific tournament, to get sponsored by a big... We'll just say I'll get sponsored by Nike to be sent out to Amsterdam for another tournament. But we lost that final, so we did not get that opportunity.
Yeah, you didn't deserve it. You didn't want it enough. Were you afraid to
Nope.
drop the name Nike? Why were you afraid to drop the name Nike? Is there something I'm unaware of? Or is it because that movie about Nike's coming out? Why
Listen,
why were you... Does Big Nike come after podcasters?
Well, you've already said their name so many times. I mean, they don't sponsor us, so I didn't want to give them, free publicity.
Oh, okay.
Unlike Lionel Coogan.
I get it. Like Lionel Coogan's right. I would like you to refer to me as Nike during the rest of these podcasts. That shall be my nickname. I've given it to myself. This is a lot of banter. No app, pun intended, at the top of an episode that is already well over an hour long. So no more chit-chat, Tom. Let's dive into this.
I like the setup for this episode taking place in Amsterdam has ties to the show's origin. So both Brendan Hunt and Jason Sudeikis were apparently working with an improv group called Boom Chicago that was stationed in Amsterdam.
Sure.
And I think that's where Brendan Hunt kind of caught the soccer bug, where just kind of saw the locals there were just obsessed with it. So he started playing a lot of FIFA with Sudeikis, and they didn't necessarily create the character of Ted Lasso when they were there in Amsterdam, but I think it was definitely kind of the start of Brendan Hunt and Sudeikis' love for the sport. So it's kind of cool that they use this as a means to have a team player friendly and actually take the team there.
Got it. That's interesting. When you say he played FIFA, you're talking about the board game where you manage a corrupt soccer league and you take bribes in order to put the World Cup in different countries. And is that the FIFA you're talking about, the board game? Am I touching something?
This is just a regular FIFA game that is popularized from EA Sports. The other game you're thinking of is FIFA Simulator. That's where you get to play as the corrupt business guys.
Oh, that's right. FIFA Simulator, brought to you by Nike. I like to play FIFA Simulator while I'm wearing my Nike shoes and drinking my Lionel Coogans. Thank you, ad break. All right, let's dive into this. Tom and I typically go through these episodes chronologically. I think that's a word. But this time, we're going to focus on characters. If you start listening to this and we don't follow that path, it's because it didn't work and we abandoned it and had to re-record the whole thing. So a little bit of mystery for those of you out there. But let's dive into this. In Amsterdam, the Dutch play. Am I correct, Tom?
Mm-hmm. We play Ajax, which is a very famous Dutch team. And this is a friendly exhibition. I don't know if this is a common thing, in the middle of a season for them to play these types of friendlies, but it's usually for, expanding your audience and, allowing the players to, get more playing time.
Got it.
Maybe the lesser players, right? Maybe not the starters.
So AFC Richmond plays Ajax, the famous warrior of Troy, maybe. I've got that right. I don't know. You said a word. I didn't know what it was, so I'm just going to say Ajax. They show up to play. Thank you. Bless you. They show up to play and they score 5 touchdowns. And the AFC Richmond people score 0 touchdowns, which is not normal for a soccer match that's supposed to be friendly, correct?
I mean, friendlies are always kind of goofy, and I think we get a little bit from Roy here in a bit where, I mean, these guys are not playing to the top of their level in most parts, and like, again, they probably are not going to play a lot of their starters. Richmond, in their case, seemed like they were because they're probably trying to get out of the funk that they're in, but yeah, they're still struggling without the likes of Zava.
They are. We'll show it. Well, this is a podcast, so we don't show anything. But there is the part where you see the poster of Zava, and it's like 2013 to 2013. So apparently Zava doesn't last long in places. But at the end of this friendly match, they play a song, Tom, and I will give you the next 3.5 minutes to sing it bar for bar. What song plays in the Dutch friendly stadium?
It's a beautiful song by Mr. Bob Marley called Three Little Birds. And I like that it starts with Rebecca hearing the song and saying, oh, this is so depressing. Yet at the very end, it kind of changes her tune on it because it is such a beautiful song. And I don't see how you can be depressed listening to it.
Sure. Well, it's tough to be depressed after you spend a long time on a wooden boat in Amsterdam. But we'll touch on that later. The interview that you mentioned is Jan Maas. I love it. He's their Dutchman, so he gets to be interviewed there. And Roy. And Roy going off here was wonderful. This is all pretend. Him going after everything was just awesome.
Yeah, the match, this conversation, the person, his job, and then him pretending to give a crap about the interview. It was so good.
So good. When he goes, you're a pretend person and doing a pretend job or whatever it was so belittling and so wonderful. And I appreciated all of this. I mean, the soccer doesn't matter. All of this is a setup for everyone to get a night out in Amsterdam. So we are, I guess, set up where Rebecca's kind of asking everyone what they're doing. Higgins is immediately like, I'm going to the red light district, which if I was to, guess as to what Higgins was doing, red light district would have been probably top 25, certainly.
I like how both Keeley and Rebecca just kind of make eye contact like, that's not where he's going. He just misspoke.
And that's a runner throughout the episode where he tells the team this later and they're like, nah, it's just a fun bit. And it's almost like they're reassuring the audience. They're like, no, Higgins, not a creep. I don't know. Not like going to go do that. Maybe creep strong. I don't know. Tom, maybe you're a big proponent of the red light district. I don't know. But it's just funny that they're like, nah, Higgins he's a good family man.
He's a married man.
We'll
Exactly. He's a married man.
Yeah. Keeley is hopping on a plane to visit Jack in Norway. So apparently that relationship is going to new heights and countries.
Yeah, apparently there's going to be a really good Aurora Borealis. It's the Aurora Borealis ever.
Nice.
But I do like there's a bit here where Keely's hair is like in the same design of Phoebe with like the little pigtails and pom-poms up top. I saw like somebody tweeted about it. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I would assume it was done on purpose from like the styling and stuff of her kind of taking on Phoebe's style, which I thought was kind of cool. So it still kind of shows a connection to Roy and that relationship. I do like how Roy then kind of comes in toward the end here, like, hey, where is she going? And then Rebecca's reply is somewhere that believes they deserve her, which is an interesting line. And I had to think about it for a little bit, but I think ultimately Rebecca's just kind of saying like, listen, if you just think you deserve her, and I think Rebecca does think that Roy deserves her or still wants to be with her, like you need to pursue it and go after her kind of a thing. So I think it's an interesting kind of coy little line that she gives. Yeah,
she's taking Keely's side, but still like it's not like a complete insult to Roy, I guess.
Yeah.
And to speak of the pigtails and pom-poms, I have been sent a letter where I'm not allowed to comment on women's fashion anymore after the last podcast. The people Julian read your messages and will proceed with caution for now on. Probably. Who knows? I won't know what I'm doing in 20 minutes, so it doesn't matter. We're on the bus. Everyone is sad. Ted and Beard take note. It's always just Ted and Beard spending time together, saying things to one another like only you can get them out of their pineapple percussions, which is great.
Yeah, the doldrums.
The doldrums.
Took me a second. I asked my wife, like, her immediate thought was to go to Chiquita as her go-to banana and not Doles. So it took us a second.
No, strong Dole family over here. We love Hawaii. We love Bob Dole. We love peanut butter. And we love the doldrums. And we love the Phantom Toll Booth. So all of those things speak to the doldrums. I don't remember what Ted says, but it all leads up to him saying, hey, no curfew tonight.
Well, I think he sees, I think that Roy is the first one that kind of goes back, which is funny. I think he literally does like a little mean face and puts like his fingers over his eyebrows to like be more thick and like goes like that, which was kind of funny. But yeah, he sees that the team needs a night out. They need some time away. And then Beard even mentions that, hey, you do too. And then boom, this is where we kind of get a lot of the story splits.
The story's all split. So we're going to chase each one of these groups through the streets of Amsterdam and what they do. Tom, I'm setting you up, and I hope you know the answer, but the Beard episode from season 2, what city were they in where he spends the night out on the town? Where was the Beard episode at?
I think that was the Manchester City game. So they weren't too far away, but they were going to hop back on the train or the tube or whatever it is. But Beard decides not, and he wants to go out, and that's where we follow him.
I was a little bit scared that this was going to turn into a callback to that. And I am very glad that they followed a diverse group of people through their night and honestly skip Beard altogether, kind of.
Yeah.
And I feel like the mystery of Beard's night is more fun, although I'm a little bit concerned maybe we catch up with Beard in the next episode. They just do a replay of his night, but I guess that's future Julian's problem.
I do. I'm with you. I like what they did because we had mentioned this during the Beard episode. The idea of what he does is probably more fun than actually watching him go all the way through. So the fact that this episode follows pretty much everybody outside of Keeley and Beard, but still gives us the Beard weirdness at the end was fun.
It was. Speaking of a lot of fun, we have the entire team in a lobby trying to make plans. And as a family of less than 5, trying to get anyone to agree on anything ever is incredible. And the fact that Isaac is very much hung up on everyone has to agree to the same thing unanimously is a crazy idea. And so what were the options, Tom? I'll start. One of them was to go see a single tulip.
Yeah, not an entire field. That would be incredibly overwhelming, which is Danny Rojas's contribution, which was great. It was a great little through line through this part of the story. And I think Zero was the one who was very eager to see a sex show since they were in Amsterdam, which seems odd to go to that type of show with all of your friends. But, Zero's or Van Damme's that kind of guy.
Yep, Van Damme is that type of guy. Since we are a podcast for children, we will refer to it as a love-making show, which I think actually sounds worse, but we're steering the ship down that traffic channel, so we'll stay with it. They ask Trent, they throw to Trent, and he's like, listen, I don't know if you've met me, but I'm probably going to suggest something like museums. And he does. He suggests it's like museum night or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Is that what I had in the outline later? Is that what Ted ultimately goes to? Is that what he's referring to, like these night Van Gogh things? Or is the Van Gogh a separate museum outing?
I think Ted only goes to one museum, so I think he just stumbles upon the one. Trent makes it seem like there's a bunch of museums. I think maybe Ted goes to it because it's open later, and that gives him the opportunity to go. But I don't think Ted goes to more than one. I mean, he goes to 2 museums, one for Van Gogh and one for the great country of the U.S. of A.
I do like that Trent Cribb is wearing some really awesome shoes here, like very loud leopard print. It was awesome.
Yes, very wonderful. Everything. I loved what they did with Trent this episode. It was fun. And they got to let him like stretch his acting chops and do some things here with Colin, which I really enjoyed. But
agreed.
We have Higgins. This is where he goes through and he's like, I'm going to go make Will a man. I'm going to the red light district with him, which I thought it was interesting that he abandoned Rebecca, but then he took Will. I didn't really know if that was that his plan the whole time, that he was going to force Will to go to Jazz instead of taking Rebecca to Jazz.
No, I think when they were either heading off the bus, that's when he kind of mentioned, like, because they were sitting next to each other on the bus, asked him if he wanted to go along, and Will was super excited that he got invited. So I think it was kind of a spur of the moment thing.
Sure, but he knows that Rebecca can sing, which everyone knows the main part of jazz is singing. So why not Higgins and Rebecca go to the jazz club and she could skit scat Scooby Doo while he plays the boss. But instead he takes Will. I like how this turned out. I was just surprised at how quickly he turned down Rebecca, but this is a TV show where plots are made, so I'll trust the writers.
It's fun to see those two characters together, right? Like we've seen, not necessarily Higgins and Rebecca do like anything maybe outside of The Office. Their banter is obviously great, but I don't know. I feel like Higgins is maybe thinking he doesn't want to get outshined by Rebecca because she's got a heck of a voice, which we get in this episode too.
We do. Jan Moss is like, listen, you guys have lucked out. I know some people around here. We could go to a private party. Colin, who I felt very much kindred spirit with Colin, where he's like, listen, you guys can all do that. I'm not going to. As the guy that is typically like, no, I shall not be attending. In fact, Apple, my phone, has that as just like a hot key thing. I start to type it, and it just says, I shall not be attending the event you are suggesting. I send it all the time. Gam, mom, dad, stepdad, all of them. It's just, no, I shall not be attending. So I was with Colin here because he's like, I'm out.
Yeah, and I wonder if it was like just, well, obviously the inconvenience of this party that Jan eventually gets to, that it's 2 hours away and just, upsets everybody. But I'm wondering if it is he wanted to be able to do his own thing here, or if it was because the party they were talking about just didn't seem up his alley. It's probably a little bit of column A and column B. Sure.
Well, he heard of a lovely little gathering place called, I believe it's pronounced Prike, and so he was going to that place.
Yeah.
This is where I believe Isaac really digs in, and he's like, no, we have to agree. Let's start the voting process. I love I love watching democracy. It works, and it works flawlessly in this situation, as it does in real life.
Oh, man. Isaac is just so phenomenal in, like, all of these scenes. Like, he's always so deadpanned, and, like, he's having no joy in any of these conversations, but he feels like it's his duty to make sure everybody, like, has a good time, and they all agree on something. So his, like, screaming of no and, like, overruled, it was just so good.
Yeah, very good. We're going to stay with the team as they continue to have this argument, and I believe they eventually settle on what they're going to do, but then the conversation is, what are we going to eat first? And that devolves into further dissension, and that leads to a great moment where, and I'm forgetting the actor's name, we'll call him Isaac in this situation, gets to rage and really, like, acting class monologue, get after it here, which I enjoyed.
His delivery is just so great because it becomes like a Shakespearean like tale or soliloquy or something where the camera's like even below him and it's just making him look huge in this scene, and he's throwing his arms out. But he's like, we are riven by these crossroads. How doth we channel the lack of compromise? Like, just everything in here was just great, and I love seeing more Isaac because we haven't got a whole lot of him here in season 3.
I would not be surprised if that was not a quote from some sort of Shakespeare. I'm going to give you 1,000 internet points for using the term soliloquy. I don't know what it means, but you used it, and I appreciate Because not only are we a podcast for children, we're also a podcast for the coastal elites. So we use terms like that. But we're also a podcast for guy who likes to kick back during the summer, have a summer shandy, from Lionel Cougans while he's wearing his Nikes, not New Balance. We are not a New Balance podcast. I want that to be.
All right, Nike.
Sam,
but Isaac, the actor of Isaac is Kola Bokiti. Great work.
After he gives that big speech, I believe that's when Sam gives Isaac the note. Did you have a guess as to what the note said? Did you have an idea of what you thought it was going to be?
I had no idea. I thought he had officially said we're going to do. I guess my thought was the party, they were going to commit to the party or something. It never occurred to me that they would move to the pillow fight. Which
No. Did not see the pillow fight. As one does, you never see a pillow fight coming. They just always come out of nowhere. I actually thought he was going to recommend Tulip, and that they would all agree to the third one. One thing we're not mentioning in here is a great moment where they're in one vote for Tulip. And they all look at Rojas, and he's like, "Oh, it could have been anyone." And they're like, "You wrote it in Spanish." That whole
anyone could have wrote it in Spanish.
Danny Rojas's delivery there was excellent. But no, this leads to a team pillow fight,
and it was just great. And did you know this is a callback from season 1? Do you remember when Ted had mentioned the idea of the team doing a pillow fight?
Yes, it was either the Iron Giant or. It was either Team Movie Night, which was Iron Giant, or Team Pillow Fight, right?
Yeah. And he's like, one of these days, you're going to choose Pillow Fight. It's going to change your world. And here we go. And it does. It's fun. It brings the whole team together. They have a fantastic time. And I think this is kind of part of the sequence where, later on we'll get to Higgins' bit where he's kind of playing, up on stage and playing jazz. As his music is playing, they're doing this pillow fight. And it's kind of cut in with the different bunch of characters montages. It's a great little kind of fitting end for the team outing in Amsterdam. Didn't go anywhere, didn't really do anything. They just hung out and pillow fought.
Yep.
And they're probably all very hungry, by the way. I don't think they ate.
No, I don't think they ate either. And they're all probably a little bit intoxicated. But I do appreciate that they went into the kit and got the jerseys so they could tell whose team is on what.
Yeah.
And this did remind me of the Community episode where they have the pillow fight in Community. Let's leave the team and go on the journey that is Roy and Jamie. I guess, did you have a favorite storyline that we followed during this episode? And we can touch on all of them, obviously, but and I'm giving my hand away. Mine was Roy and Jamie. Did you have a favorite?
I mean, yeah, it can't not be Roy and Jamie. Their relationship is just so fun to watch as it's kind of blossomed since season 1 and just completely upended. And now they're friends. They're apologizing to each other. They're ribbing on each other. It's fantastic. So yeah, I would agree with you. This is probably my favorite storyline of this episode.
Well, now I feel like I chose the popular one. So I'm going to, as we speak through these, I'm going to determine that I hated the Roy and Jamie storyline just to be contrary.
Okay.
They leave the bus. I love how Roy does this. He's like, "Nah, we're training. Get off." And Jamie's like, "Okay." He takes his weird man fanny pack and hands it to Will, and he's like, "Throw this away." And then Jamie's like, "Please don't throw that away." But they leave, and this is just a wonderful reveal that Jamie is a history buff. That he he's been to Amsterdam, he's done some studying, he's done the tours. And he's just naming off things. And Roy's exasperation with how much Jamie knows is just great.
Yeah, it just makes it worse. He's just so energetic, and he's doing cartwheels. And it's funny, too, to see, kind of old man Roy here struggling to keep up with Jamie. Because the idea is generally maybe Roy normally would, I'd say be on a bike, but we know he can't ride a bike, but be in a car following him while he makes Jamie run in front so he can be like he was in the previous episode, just sitting on a bench eating a sandwich while he makes Jamie do other work. But now he's got to participate and run with him.
Right. And I'm assuming this is essentially a diversion for Roy's feeling because he knows what Keeley has gone off to do. And so he's just he's forcing Jamie to give him a reason to take out some aggression or not think about Keeley moving on from him. And so it is funny, like he's in a bad mood, and so Jamie's like over the top good mood. I am the type of person that if I'm in a bad mood, I just like to be left alone, and being around someone who's super happy that's trying to cheer you up just makes it worse. I will dig my bad mood heels in until that person gets it, and then until everyone's in a bad mood. That's the key.
Very Ted Lasso of you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, as mentioned earlier, I'm at Julian level 5 right now. I'm not even on the Lasso scale. So maybe by the end of this podcast, Tom, who knows?
We'll get to it, buddy.
Roy is tired, and he has never been to Amsterdam, which is funny because Jamie reveals what?
Yeah, this gives the great little lines where Jamie's saying, like, never been to a stag party, an international match, an emergency flight diversion because you were being too distracting on a plane, which he then immediately admits to him doing that, and that's why he was been in Amsterdam.
That's so great. He doesn't seem all that regretful about it. He kind of thinks it's a funny thing, but Roy is just like, everything here's fake. They're looking at this like weird windmill, and he's like, I don't believe in windmills, which is a funny thing to not believe in.
And then he ultimately, it spurs Jamie like, okay, we need bikes.
And Roy is apparently against anything that has a spoke and spins, because we find out not a big bike guy, not a big windmill guy. We stick with them, and it's a great moment where Jamie has clearly paid a homeless guy to steal him bikes, but I don't think Jamie knows that. I think Jamie just like, hey there, fella, how do I get some bikes? And the guy's like, listen, I will get you bikes. Because I think he hands him the chain for the first one. It's got like it's like a neon bike chain, and he hands it to Jamie with the bike, which is great.
I like that idea, the idea that Jamie is just completely oblivious. I don't think I thought about this. I initially thought like, oh, he's just a rich guy. He doesn't really care what he's doing. But I think it's funnier and probably more believable that he's just oblivious and just hands the guy £100 or whatever it is.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, where do we find bikes? The guy's like, oh, I'll get you. And Jamie's like, all right, cool. This guy's going to get us. And this is then where we discovered that Roy does not know how to ride a bike. And this was great.
Like the beat where like, okay, how is Jamie going to react? And of course the homeless guy's still here too. They both burst out in laughter, which was lovely. I loved it.
Yes. The fact that the two of them get to laugh at, I don't know, future Canton Hall of Fame football player Roy Kent. I'm assuming all football players share the same Hall of Fame, right? It's all in Canton?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, wonderful.
It's got to be in America.
What's less funny is Roy explaining, Granddad told me he'd teach me, and then he died over Christmas before I came home. That makes it a little less funny, but...
Well, the way they shot it was great, because it's like, yeah, you immediately kind of feel bad, but then like the very next line from Roy is like, actually, it's a great disrespect for his memory, and now I feel ashamed saying it all out loud. Like, so that it gives us the end back to like, okay, we can laugh at him, or you know, Jamie needs to encourage him to get on that bike.
Right. That's a good point. And Jamie's like, I will teach you, and that's my best Jamie impression accent I can do. I am Jamie, I will teach you. And then...
For your granddad.
There it is. We get a little bit of Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, which... Tom, have you ever seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
I have not, so I don't know any of these references that they're doing here. I've certainly heard the song, but tell me about it.
Okay, so I'll start from the top. We open on a mesa in the desert. The screen, no. So Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid is a great movie. And there is a scene that I don't think it's in the middle exactly, but it is a little bit out of place in the movie where they are in like the Wild West. They're outlaws, and they come across like old school bikes with the big like front tire and small. And so this song, Raindrop Keep Falling on My Head, plays while Butch Cassidy and his girlfriend at the time are like riding on
Sundance
bikes.
Kid?
So the Sundance Kid is his business partner.
I'm sorry.
And so anyways, it's kind of a It's an iconic scene from an iconic movie, and you should watch the movie because it's great. It has a great ending.
Okay.
The best ending of any movie I've ever seen, quite possibly.
Okay, I'm excited.
There's no soccer in it, so
this is the pre-make of this scene.
yes.
Just like the pre-make of The
Butch
Office?
Cassidy and the
Okay.
Sundance Kid stole this scene. Yes, that's exactly
Okay.
right. And Paul Newman and Robert Redford saw Ted Lasso and then made that movie. So, yes.
I love that guy's ranch. It's great.
Oh, his ranch
salad
dressing?
Italian
Yes.
dressing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got one that I think has poppy seeds in it. So if you ever want to not get past a drug test, get some of your Paul Newman poppy seed dressing. Sometimes I like to put it on a salad and then wash it down with an ice cold Lionel Coogan's while I'm wearing my Nikes. Who we need sponsors, Tom. Anyways, there is this montage of him learning to ride a bike, which is great. My favorite moment of the whole thing was where Roy literally attacked Jamie with the bike by picking it up and throwing at him. So great.
Jamie's response, how is that going to help anyone?
Oh, and then
I
Roy,
love how, like,
go ahead.
Jamie is just so, like, happy-go-lucky and being so kind and, like, encouraging. It's so fun to watch him, like, open up with Roy and, like, I don't know, get past Roy's rough exterior.
Oh yeah, the story arc of the two of them from season 1 to this now is just like it's paying off, and it's so much fun. And speaking of paying off, Roy kind of learns to ride a bike. There's some questionable moments, but he gets the gist, and he'll probably never forget. But they then have these moments where they're sharing with each other, and Jamie's talking about, hey, I have been to Amsterdam one time, with my father, was a terrible person to my mother, and he wanted to be super dad. He brought me out here, and I thought we were going to see the sights. Instead, he, much like Higgins and Will, took me to the red light district for some light prostitution.
I like Roy. He's just like, you must have been traumatized. He's like, no, she loved it. Which is a nice little brief moment of levity here because it is kind of odd for that to happen. But Jamie's response is still kind of interesting. Like he says he doesn't remember it, even though that was apparently like his first time. It just kind of says a little bit about kind of his character and like the way he was probably raised, obviously by his kind of absentee or abusive father, and being a celebrity kind of at a young age was probably didn't experience a lot of these things that a lot of young kids grow up experiencing.
Yeah, no, there's probably a lot to unpack inside the mind of Jamie Tart, but that's not our job. That's Dr. Sharon's job. So he does mention about revisiting with his mom, and she took him to the museums and also took him to light prostitution, which, no, that's not what happened. Both Roy and Jamie have a moment here where they apologize, and they go off to find windmills. More windmills.
Yep.
It's
windmill,
not
sequence.
windmeal, right? You're not eating the wind. It's windmill, correct?
I don't know. You can make an argument that those windmill blades are eating the wind. So, yeah, I think it goes.
Okay. Get at us.
General
GE
Mills. It
turbine. Goes. Yeah, smart. Okay.
Yeah. Getting sponsored by GE and General Mills. A lot of sponsors this episode.
So many sponsors. Also, we talked about democracy earlier. Rock the vote, guys. Get out there and rock that vote. That is another one of our sponsors. I don't know what we're voting for, but I don't know. Listen to this around the time where voting matters and go do it. That's, but only if you're going to do it in the right way, for what I want you to do. That would be better than other things. Anyways, rock the vote. All right. Cullen and Trent. I enjoyed this storyline. I enjoyed this. Once again, I felt like it's a dated storyline, but I love what they did with it, and maybe dated's the wrong word. I don't know. Cullen gets his excuse. He leaves the team. Trent follows him like the Sherlock Holmes that he is, although Sherlock Holmes wishes he had that hair. And Cullen goes to, once again, I think I'm pronouncing this correctly. I believe the bar is called Prike. Does that sound right? P-R-I-K?
For the sake of this children's podcast, yes, we'll call it Prike.
Okay. So he goes to Prike. Looks lovely, well decorated. They don't have vanilla vodka, which I found questionable, but they have just a full bar of Hendrick's gin. So many bottles of Hendrick's gin, which is a great choice, but lacked variety. Not complaining. Funny story with Hendrick's gin, you don't put a lime, you put a cucumber in there. So that's something when you're making a gin and tonic. We're also brought to you by Hendrick's gin and cucumbers.
Not a gin guy. Never been a gin guy. That'd be a good cucucber. Put those over your eyes.
But you kept singing that song when we were younger about gin and juice, so I always assumed you were a gin guy. No?
No, I did like that song. That's one of my early jams, but no, not the alcoholic drink. I think I had one gin martini on a cruise before, and it was terrible, so it turned me off of all gin.
Really rubbing the fact that you've been on a large boat drinking alcohol in our faces, Tom. That's fine.
Yeah, it's much bigger than that Dutch guy's.
That's good. Well, on those small wood boats, it's only brandy. There's no gin there. Trent shows up as Colin is talking to the bartender. Colin does a great work here. He's like, "Oh, am I in the right place?" He's like, "I have amnesia," and then he immediately leaves. It was very funny how he got out of there in the most awkward way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you turn down a show called Thunderdong. I mean, I'm there. I'm watching that.
Yes. Thunderdog is it used to be Thundercats, and then they did a cartoon about Thunder Dogs. So I've never seen it, but I think a very similar animation style to Thundercats.
Okay.
This is a podcast for children, Tom. Trent follows him out and is like, "Hey, your secret's safe. I knew before. I haven't told anyone." And this leads to a very nice heart-to-heart where Trent expresses that he, I guess, was married. He has a daughter, and then he had to come out to his spouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this whole scene is just absolutely beautiful with both of them kind of sitting and enjoying the beers kind of right there on the canal. But yeah, Trent kind of confessing that, he had to come out twice to his wife, who didn't believe it the first time and then did it again. But then ultimately mentions to Colin that my daughter and my family, we've never been happier. Since I've been, living kind of, which we'll get to, he's living one life. He's not trying to live a dual life or pretend that he's somebody he's not. And it's only made his family stronger and happier.
Right, which is Colin's point. He's like, I feel like I have to live two lives where I'm pretending in one and then I have my true self in another.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, you kind of mentioned earlier, this is, I love seeing storylines like this because it's stuff that, I certainly as a straight white man just kind of take for granted, don't understand the world that, people that are not out and are not able to live and be themselves, how challenging and difficult it is. And we kind of mentioned the idea that Colin being a professional footballer, and I love the way he presents it here. He says, I don't want to be a spokesman. I don't want to, I can come out to my team and I feel confident that my team wouldn't care, but it's just easier for me to keep this inside. And he kind of has his work life and his dating life. But then he, brings up the idea that Dr. Sharon has helped him and realize that he has an ache inside and that, he needs to be able to live one life and not separate the two, which is just so heart-wrenching to kind of hear and so beautifully told from Billy Harris as the actor for this scene playing Colin. And then in getting the Trent kind of back and forth that they're both opening up to each other is beautiful. And I think I even mentioned too, where we saw kind of Trent wearing that little kind of bracelet. So it kind of gets the mention of Trent having a daughter and kind of gives a little bit more of Trent's backstory, which I really loved as well. So just a beautiful scene and really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I thought they both did a wonderful job here. My fear was that they were going to turn this romantic, which I feel like it plays better, as kind of a, hey, I've gone through what you're going through and kind of like a mentorship. I liked how they did this. And then it ends, as one does, with that mentorship going to Thunderdog? Thundercat? Oh, no, I said it, Tom. Sorry, Gam Gam.
There are worse things in this world to say than Thunderdog. That's just fun. But yeah,
Sure.
they finished their sequence with Colin finally gets his vanilla vodka, which he absolutely loves. And I will be honest, I would probably love some vanilla vodka. Trent was not having it. He kind of took a sip and it's like, no. But seeing both of them just laugh and have fun at that bar kind of towards the end was just awesome. And it's fun to see Colin like opening up and now kind of having somebody kind of close to him that, maybe he feels more comfortable opening up to his team in the future. So again, interesting to see where they take that storyline. I'm for it.
Yeah. I'll say this household is a big proponent of vanilla vodka. There's someone in this house that consumes it for breakfast. So that's probably not something we should put out into the world, Julian. But
no, she puts it in her morning orange Julius.
That's good.
Was that Woody the Woodpecker?
Yeah, this is my Woody the Woodpecker laugh. I'm trying it out.
Sounds a lot like Kermit.
I will not do a Kermit impression. The people have spoken about that as well. I can't talk about women's fashion, and I can't do Kermit impressions, but I can laugh like Woody the Woodpecker. All right, let's go down the Higgins and Will path, which is they go to the red light district. We immediately find out that this is going to be a jazz venture into the red light district because he comes across this plaque, which is of Chet Baker. The best line delivery is Will when he's like, "Is everything okay at home?" Just such a good line to like it's your boss, but like some stuff's happening that you're uncomfortable with. So your opener is, "Hey, are you doing all right? Everything how's I don't know, Windy? Is everything good at home? Yeah, boys are good." I don't know. It was just so good the way he delivered that line.
It was great. But I like how we get this backstory of Chet Baker, and he kind of mentions the idea that he's like a heroin addict and he was tortured by his demons, but it still didn't stop him from making great music, which I think we get a little bit with like that guy talking to Ted later on about Van Gogh. Brilliant people that can make beautiful things, but are kind of tortured by just inner demons and things like that. And then I think at a certain point, Higgins starts making like mention of him getting like or falling out of that window and like making mention like, did he do it? Or did he do it? Did somebody push him? And I was like, uh-oh. Like I literally started putting my fingers together. I'm like, oh, Julian, do we have a murder mystery on our hands? Is Higgins going to be Detective Higgins and going to solve a murder mystery? But alas, we just play jazz.
Yeah, they just play jazz, which is the second best option in that situation. And we also find out from this conversation that drugs are bad. So once again, Team Binge brought to you by Dare. Don't always recreationally, I don't know what the E stands for. I don't remember what Dare stands for, but we're brought to you by them. So whenever you want to do a drug, just crack open an ice cold Lionel Coogan's Summer Shandy. Better than drugs, our slogan.
We dare you.
There we go. We dare you. I like it. All right, we'll workshop some of that. I think we'll get there though.
And we're not doing this chronologically, like we mentioned clearly, but this is, I think you had this in the initial outline. It was great that he's telling Will that drugs are bad, and then the next scene cuts to Beard making like some kind of tea cocktail for Ted, like
with
doing
shrooms.
drugs and saying how great drugs are, which was fun.
Beard, big proponent. Not a Dare guy. I would say he probably did not win the essay contest to get himself the old Dare lion stuffed animal. Higgins needed a jazz buddy, and that's why him and Will are on a pilgrimage to the jazz club. He has a line. Do you remember the line about what was the...
Yeah. He kind of says like, yeah, a single person going is just a zealot, but two pilgrims together, that's a pilgrimage. And then they have a little cheers. And it was a nice, fun moment with these two.
Yep. And then they each rip off a turkey leg and mashed potatoes, and they celebrate Thanksgiving as pilgrims. I think that's what happened. Higgins gets on stage because he is... Listen, Tom, I've been to a lot of concerts where all I do is air guitar the whole time. I've never once been asked on stage. I've never once had a guy on stage be like, hey, man, you look like you could really rock that air guitar. Do you play for real? My answer would, of course, be yes, because the spotlight's on me and everyone's looking at me and everyone's been like, oh, that guy's air guitar is great. So Higgins has been air basing. Is that a thing? Am I touching
apparently.
something? So then he gets called on stage. I don't know. I can suspend a lot of disbelief. You know, the psychic, the fact that there are all these canals filled with water running through the city and no one falls into them. But this guy being called on stage because of his air bass, it stretches the limits just a little bit.
It is, but I mean, again, we're not jazz people. We don't frequent these types of jazz establishments, which I feel like we probably should. I feel like it'd be kind of fun to go to a jazz club and see.
My body
check
just
it out.
reacted negatively to that suggestion. I can't express to you what it did, but it said no.
Oh, that's a bummer. All right, I guess I'm going by myself.
Just all I ask is sit in the table right in front of the stage and pretend like you're air basing, and then FaceTime me when they call you on stage and they realize you've never held a bass before.
I need you to be able to be that guy right next to me. You need to be my Will that says, "Oh yeah, this guy he knows Chet Baker. You know Chet Baker? Like yeah, he can crush it."
I don't even know what I would say. I'd be like, "Oh, this cool cat, he really jazzes." Like I don't even know. Would that lingo be accepted? Someone write us at Team Binge Podcast.
Hands.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Jazz hands at you. Be like, "Oh, this guy's got the jazziest of jazz hands." And I'm not talking about the dance move. And then I wink with both eyes. All right. Higgins plays very well. We have a montage of his music. And Will gets a little bit of the eye from a lady that was previously making out with a dude, like not, 5 seconds before. So I don't know if we're proud of this for Will, but it's going to lead to something.
Yeah. This immediately made me think of like Wedding Crashers. The idea of like, yeah, that lady in the hat just something out of me.
Yep.
Again,
there it
podcast.
Is. Yep. You got there.
I almost said it. But yeah, I like it. And again, we get it at the very end when they get back to the bus, but then Will makes the mention of like got invited to a threesome, which I like the idea of this continuing the like triangle or like three.
Oh,
kind of
wow.
thing to
Listen to you. You're making triangle connections all over the place. I didn't even think of that.
Oh, man.
Incredible.
They're everywhere in this episode.
Incredible work. All right. You know what? This was my favorite storyline. Rebecca's. Let's follow Rebecca through her sailing adventures.
Her murder.
Oh, okay. You think she gets murdered in this episode and everything else
All
is
a fever
just
dream.
a Jacob's Ladder
she's
scenario where everyone is dreaming?
Yes. Listen, I'll just say it up top. Like, I liked this storyline. I like what they kind of did to be able to, let Rebecca kind of have like a moment of kind of just pure fun and just emotional like joy. But I mean, all these little beats and stuff are just kind of creepy and seem very out of character for Rebecca to just be going along with all of this. But again, I don't want to harp on it throughout this whole sequence, but I did find it weird.
Tom, I think you're projecting a little. As someone who, and I know your story where you were once accidentally knocked into the Tempe Town Lake and fished out by a homeless person who then took advantage of you. We won't go into detail. I feel like you're projecting what happened to Rebecca in this situation. So let's just take this one at face value. I thought this was a beautiful story that was very romantic. And I was not at all weirded out by this giant gentleman in his orange haze wood houseboat. So let's dive into it. Rebecca's on the phone, as one does with Sassy. We find out that, I guess, there are bike bridges, or she's standing in the bike lane. Is this a thing? Is there... Who did the research on Amsterdam? You kind of see in the background...
You see in the background she's like walking on like a sidewalk that is like red. So I think it's specific for bike people. There's people walking like next to her, but they're walking kind of further to the right. So like that's for pedestrians. The other's for bikes. So she is not where she should be.
She gets knocked off of the bridge. I think this is as the gentleman is like, hey, you are a very lovely woman. insert Dutch. Tom, when Jimmy edits this, just have him give me a Dutch accent during that line reading. She gets knocked off the bridge. She loses her phone. Listen, Apple, come at us for ideas here, but missed opportunity. The phone should have floated to the top, and they would have been like, iPhone 20, it floats. Like that. What don't you want your phone to be able to watch videos, answer phone calls, not text people, and float? Those are all we want out of a cell phone. And Apple, I feel like, really missed it. She should have been holding onto that phone like it was a life raft. Like it was the only thing keeping her afloat. Come on, Apple. The Apple iPhone 21. It floats. That's the slogan. Boom.
Listen, she could probably find that somewhere in there. They'll dredge the river. They'll find it.
Sure, they'll drench the river. That's right. This immediately was like, I was like, wait, and I went into like a fugue state, and I was like reaching out into the psychic world. I was somewhere between this world and the psychic one, and I remembered that a psychic in the show said something about she's going to be wet and scared, but okay. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, I think she said like you're going to be drenched and spinning, but safe. So again, her flipping upside down very comically into the water, but ultimately was safe with this guy.
Drenched and spinning, I'm pretty sure is an exercise class, is it not?
Well, you got to pay. It's a very expensive exercise class.
Sure,
a lot of water.
Sure,
but it's now that I hear that and like I'm talking about that, like. I wonder if the idea of, again, Rebecca's kind of seemingly full bore into the psychic's reading and thinks everything is going to come true. So if she was told that she would be drenched and spinning, but safe, like if the psychic told her she'd be safe, maybe that's why she was like less, I guess just more into like this experience and not just immediately leaving this guy's house.
Okay. Well, it's a boat. It's tough to leave a boat.
Houseboat.
He pulled up the plank and jettisoned the buoys so she couldn't get onto the pier. Those are all nautical terms, Tom, which I think is the main reason why people join us, for learning nautical terms here at Team Binge. This man encourages her to swim to him, but does not put in a lot of effort to help. I'll say this.
No.
I think he throws his phone into the water, maybe, but he does not throw this would have been, he could have been like, oh, hey, I have the iPhone 21. It's a flotation device. And then he could have just whipped it at her, and then she could have used that to get to the boat. Instead, he just throws his phone in the water and does not make any effort. He's like really high on that boat. Like he's like, I don't know, 6 feet out of the water. I know she's tall, but I don't know. I didn't feel like this guy was very helpful from the get-go.
No, could have thrown her like a little life raft.
Yeah,
not a
like
life
a
raft.
life raft phone. Yes, Tom, we've established phones should float.
But like, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is kind of clumsy and silly writing. Like, nobody's taking their phone and just chucking it in the water to make somebody else in the water feel slightly better. Like, he was on the phone with seemingly maybe his daughter or ex-wife. Like, it was silly. Nobody does that.
I mean, he's ready for an upgrade, which when you have the iPhone 21, if you drop it in water and it does not float, time for an upgrade. Apple. Sorry, that was another commercial.
It doesn't like explode and turn to a bunch of little iPhones like the Gremlins?
No, it does not. I dropped my iPhone into the pool once, and it was no longer working. So this is where all the bitterness about the iPhone not floating is coming from. That's a little bit about me. Sorry, we're sticking with Rebecca. She wanders around this murder houseboat. Can we just refer to it as the murder houseboat? Now you've got a... I didn't think it was that creepy, but you've kind of got me in the mode where, yeah, she could have been maybe murdered at any moment. So... She wandering around. Yeah.
She sees the kid's bedroom, and the show is trying to tell us, like, okay, this is not a murder houseboat. It's a good boat because it's playing this soft, gentle music. She's like seeing the kid's room, and it's, beautiful. But like, I don't know who this guy is. Maybe he just likes little kid stuff, and this is his room. Like, we don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's goofy, but again,
good point,
I don't want to harp on all this murder boat stuff. It is what it is. It's fine. It's fun.
Yeah, no, you make a great point. Grown men who like little kid stuff, never murderers. So that's you're making a wonderful point. I don't think she keeps looking at like carvings and stuff, and there's like one of an airplane. It never occurred to me, and maybe I just missed it, that like it was kid stuff. I missed.
Like, I feel like one thing they could have done here is show a picture of him with his kid, right? Like that just at least gives me and proves to me that he has a kid. Like the fact that he just has this room that has a bunch of kid stuff in it. I mean, again, the music certainly helped play this, but it would have been nice if he just walks into the room, picks up a picture lovingly with a father and daughter.
Sure. Yep. And then scans to another photo where it's like the Dutch political party. He's at a rally and it's like, no murder, like no weapons, no kidnapping. Those are like, that's their platform. And so you're like, okay, the shorthand is he's got a kid, so he's a dad. Also, he's against murder, kidnapping, and evil. It's just like the all-encompassing. Yeah, I'm with you. That's a good... Yeah, that I like when shows show us something rather than making us figure it out through conversation where we have to listen. He's left her some hot tea.
Which, again, leaves a note. It's not drugged, I promise. Like,
that's what a person who drugged the tea would say. I mean, let's just be honest. Right? You're going to preemptively be like, oh, no, there's no drugs in there. Just drink the whole thing. I mean, there's a famous scene of those two guys that murder that guy in that diner where they're like, try your burger. I bet it's great. Eat it up. And they've filled it with pills, and then he dies. Those guys were mass murderers. Their names were... That
documentary?
Yes.
Dumb and Dumber?
Documentary where I want to say one of them was named Larry, and the other one's name was Jeff? I don't
Harry
remember.
and Lloyd.
Oh, so close. Anyways, the tea's not drugged. This gentleman... Do we ever find out this guy's name?
Nope. We do not get it. Like, I purposely don't get it. Like, they don't exchange names because at the very end, when they're kind of saying their goodbyes, they both don't know each other's name.
Sure. And I have questions about that. Anyways, man comes back with food. He bandages her foot and kisses it, which I now am kind of seeing your point, Tom.
It's a bit murdery, isn't it?
Yeah. There's some fun banter where he's like, I was in the military, and I was like, well, I mean, you can learn to put a Band-Aid on something and having not been in the military. But when she kisses the foot and he says, oh, it's habit, she's like, oh, from the military? That whole, all those were funny, but now that I'm thinking about it, he's going to take her feet. That's what he's going to do, right?
Yeah.
Because later,
fetish.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable, Tom. I'm uncomfortable.
I'm glad I got you there.
Oklahoma. What is what's the?
You had it. That's it. Tell the truth.
Okay.
Oklahoma.
Okay. My safety word is Oklahoma. He starts to make dinner. He delivers her a tub of clothes from previous victims. Oh, Tom, this episode could have gone so differently. I did not, because Rebecca is preemptively being like, hey, should I be worried? I wasn't as creeped out, but when you go over it again, yeah, not great. Not great for anyone, right?
It really isn't. But again, it's like, I tried to just suspend it because I get what they're trying to do with this bit of the storyline, but I felt like they were too heavy-handed in it. Like they could have done, and I don't know what they could have done, but they needed to do a little bit more to not make this as creepy as it, I think, to me, ultimately kind of played.
Yep. He's like, oh, no, the tub is my former victim's clothes. And then he's like, no, former partner's clothes. Sorry. In Dutch, the translation is different. And this leads to Rebecca, even though Rebecca completely charmed by this weird wooden houseboat with the murder stuff. But she's going to do a little bit of detective work here.
Well, she even finds something in the pack of clothes that she likes and makes mention, or he makes mention that the ex-wife or whatever is no longer in the picture. And she's like, oh no, did she pass away? And then he says, unfortunately, no. So he gives that beat. which again, kind of murdery.
Murdery. Yep, you're right.
He wants his wife
I'm in
murdered.
your corner now, Tom. I'm in your corner. Now I'm terrified of this Dutchman and his boat. The Flying Dutchman and his boat. That's a thing. Very quickly, he offers a foot massage, which, real quick on that. Went to the foot massage. He's like, oh, and rub this lotion on. I don't know. This was weird.
I mean, like, are you sure? My technique is sound, which again, that just gives me murder vibes. I can't say it enough. I didn't want to say it at the top of this, but I mean, I'm just going to keep saying it. This guy's a murderer.
Yeah. At what point does she put on the clothes of the partner? I think it's around this part because she makes the comment about, like, should I be terrified that a tall woman is going to come in here and murder me? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wouldn't be worried about that. That's probably the second person that's going to murder you on this boat. And I'm going to say this. And I know at the top of this, I made some comments about me not saying anything about women's fashion. So I'm just going to say someone in my house while watching this commented on the piece of clothing that Rebecca chose and thought it was very un-Rebecca-like. And so I am delivering that news, but not criticizing from me. I'm just repeating something that was said in my house about this muumuu that she puts on. That's all that I'm saying.
It is interesting because, like, yeah, we never really see Rebecca in anything but super fancy, high-end, beautiful clothing. I think we got a couple of shots of her at home, but then she's in, like, just a beautiful robe. So this seems like kind of nice Sunday afternoon attire. She looks great in it.
That's what was shared in my house. Speaking of sharing, man shares his unfaithful partner story. And it's sad. And he said, that's what drives me to murder. And she's like, what? And he's like, oh, sorry. Once again, translation is different.
I do like this story. And again, this is where I like what they did with, outside of the murdery bits, like him kind of saying, like, hey, with time, he says, like, with time, I realized that this didn't happen to me. It happened for me, which again, I think is brilliant. It's a beautiful way to kind of think about, kind of hardships and things in life that sometimes it's, it might seem really terrible and awful in the moment, but sometimes these things can happen for a reason. And I think that kind of hits Rebecca pretty hard here.
Sure. I'm sure she'll have that mindset as she's being murdered on this boat. She's like, this isn't happening to me. This is happening for me. And he's like, yes, exactly. Anyways, they start singing because she's like, oh, is this someone singing a Kenny Rogers song? And he corrects her and is like, no, this is a Dutch genius. Yes, he's singing the Gamblers song. And so the two of them have a lovely moment where they sing and drink. And these are the types of moments in shows, and I'm sure I've brought this up before, where I wish I had a lick of musical talent and could sing, because if I ever burst into song, it's a real downer for everyone. Mainly because I only sing funeral dirges. But anyways, they both have lovely voices.
We got to get you to a karaoke bar. You get a couple drinks in you. The key is confidence. You can be terrible, but as long as you got enough confidence, then you can have some fun. But both of these people are fantastic singers, and it's always fun to get more Rebecca or Hannah Waddingham singing.
Tom, I love you. There's not a amount of alcohol that would keep me alive, but also allow me to sing in public. So I appreciate you, but I'm not ready to die yet.
Challenge accepted.
But if I was going to, I'd drink Lionel Coogan's Summer Shandy, 400 of them. That's a callback to last episode for those of you that are joining us for the first time, which doesn't make any sense. Tom? Gezelig. To you, sir.
Gezellig.
What? Bless you.
Gezellig. I don't know if I'm doing that right. But I
don't either. They
Dutch
said it
is awesome. That's a cool language.
Yeah, no, it is, certainly, and Beard speaks it. But he says this a bunch of times, and I was like, hey, when are we going to ask what that word means? Because Rebecca certainly didn't know. And we find out it's like warm and cozy. Go ahead.
I want to say, when he first said that, it was like right after mentioning he was making food. So I'm like, oh, gazelle, that's just like some food. That's a dish that he's making. That was my impression.
Yep. I had that same impression, but then he kept using it. And I was like, I think it might mean birder. Anyways, it's something about being warm and cozy. The dryer buzzes, but these two are not ready to part ways. They're not ready to put on dry clothes and leave the warmth of this murder boat. So she throws... Did she throw booze on the clothes, or were those glasses of water? I hope they were glasses of water, because that's just crazy.
They made mention they were going to switch to water because they had been drinking a lot. So that was 2 glasses of water. She uses them both, or she uses one, he uses the other to get the clothes wet, and they go straight back to the wine. Okay,
wonderful. I'm thinking about this now, and I thought this guy that plays this role, that plays man, did a wonderful job. In hindsight, it would have been much funnier had this gentleman been like, I don't know, 5'6" and like 110 pounds. And it would have just been fun if he was a much smaller, but still a viable romantic partner for Rebecca. You would have gotten less of the murdery vibes, Tom, because you've been like, oh, Rebecca would break that dude in half. So that's kind of what I hoped for.
That's true. This guy he's a handsome man, but he's a big guy. He's an intimidating guy. So yeah, I get the vibes. So I'm sorry, you're a great actor, but you give me Bond villain vibes.
Yeah. Big, handsome, murdery fella. That's what he is. I'm sorry, did they do some dancing and then...
Yeah, this is like the montage bit where, again, towards the end of the episode where they're kind of dancing, he eventually gets in for that foot rub, and then she ultimately kind of falls asleep. And you can kind of see him going into his room, kind of tucking her in, and that's kind of where they part ways for the night.
This is going to reveal a lot, but I have never seen anyone enjoy a foot rub as much as that Rebecca is enjoying that foot rub. I did not recognize the look of, we'll say, pleasure on her face as that foot rub was happening. So the guy is certainly, his technique is not to be questioned, I believe.
No.
It's sound.
Yeah.
Sound is the way to put it.
It is. I have a companion that absolutely hates feet, so I don't get or give foot massages. I gotta pay a. I was gonna say
homeless
a pediatrician.
person in an
that's
alley?
Not. That's not who gives them. Who gives pedicurist? Pedicure people? Don't they
that's
do
a nail
foot
thing.
massages?
That's not a massage. I don't know.
I think they do.
What's
both,
happening
though,
right now? So you're saying you don't get foot massages at home, so you have to pay for them in the red light district? Is that what I'm hearing?
This is what you're hearing. Listen, I don't get them often, but a good foot massage is fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I just start giggling. Just like that. The next morning, these two share a kiss as they part ways. I was a little bit concerned by Rebecca's question. Had she had that much to drink? She's like, did we? And he was like, no. And then as she leaves, he's like, did we? Yes, we did. And I was like, oh no, he's going to murder everyone.
Yeah, it was kind of weird the way they kind of shot this, and I don't think it's certainly meant to be menacing or all, but like the idea that it's more than just them, going to bed together. Like, to me, this is like more of an emotional one-night stand kind of thing where like they don't exchange names, they don't exchange contact information afterwards, which how could they? They don't have phones. This was just more like, I think something that certainly Rebecca wanted and needed is just a companion of somebody that treats her kind of like the amazing person that she is.
Sure. Now, you mentioned they couldn't exchange information because they don't have phones. Tom, I know you're not an Apple guy. Spoilers. But what you would know is if you had an Apple 21, not only do they float, but they also come with a sticky note pad that is separate from the phone. So if you ever do lose your phone, it comes with a special, it's like a yellow, like picture a square, and then it's these yellow pieces of paper that all stick to each other, but when you remove one, it doesn't stick to a lot of other things, like it's not like gunky. Wow. but then you can write people's phone numbers on them and slap them on your forehead. And then when you find your phone again, you have that number. iPhone 21, now with flotation and sticky notes. Thank you.
That's wild. Never heard of them.
Yeah. Come at us, Samsung. We've got you covered. Tom, before we dive into Beard and 10, I'd like to take about 10 minutes to discuss, do you think we'll meet Man again? Murder Man Boat Dude, do you think he will come into the picture again?
I don't think so. I think this
You think this is it?
Yeah, I think that was it. I think it was just something that Rebecca needed. I certainly think from his perspective, like he probably wants to explore that relationship and is probably super bummed, but I don't know if we're going to go back here.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't know. The fact that they didn't exchange information, even though they had the iPhone 21's yellow pad of paper, I think it's surprising that they didn't do that. So I think all signs point to them not seeing each other again. But I'm going to leave my heart open to the romance that maybe this is what the psychic was talking about. Because he does have a child, which would mean she would then... boo on the show for not answering that question. They left the last episode with us wondering what news she got, and then they completely blinded us with everything that happened in this episode, so we're not still asking that question. Anyways.
It'll come back.
Yeah, no, eventually they'll answer. All right, let's go, Tom. You mentioned we don't have any time to lose. Let's dive into Beard and Ted. Where should we eat? Ted suggests the American restaurant, which is a great suggestion.
Yankee Doodle Burger Barn. That's my kind of joint.
Man, my stepdad, every 2 weekends, other than when he was, we'll just say detained, would take me to the Yankee Doodle Burger Barn. And he'd leave me with the waitress. I don't know where he'd go, and then he'd come back 3 hours later. Sometimes with a stack of cash, and other times we would have to leave before the bill was paid. Thanks, Pop. All right, they're going to try something new because Ted's like, listen, I need to get inspired. I need to shake off these cobwebs. I need to, and our friend Beard is not excited about Ted wanting to try new things, correct?
Oh, no, man. Beard's been waiting for Ted to say this his whole life. He's super excited to see what he's... I mean, I don't know. Is he super excited to get Ted on drugs? Or is he he wants to show Ted a good time? Okay.
Yes. And this is a lesson to all you kids out there. Your friends are always excited to get you on drugs. That's why here at the DARE program, we caution you to have friends. Try to not have friends, because then no one other than your parents can entice you to do drugs. DARE. Don't do drugs with your parents, kids. Drugs are good, apparently, is what the show's telling me. They change your mind and they remap neuro pathways. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't think Beard's a doctor. But I do like that his vehicle for putting drugs in Ted's body is tea, which seems like the worst vehicle to put drugs in your body, other than obviously a syringe. But yeah.
I like the idea that we had Rebecca getting the tea that says it's not drugged, and then we have Beard giving him tea that is clearly drugged. It's kind of a funny little bit back and forth. Although we do find at the end that this tea that is drugged isn't potent, so it's not going to actually give any side effects.
Sure. That was a great opportunity for you to use the term juxtaposition, Tom.
I use it too much. I was trying to hold back, but
But
you're right.
You have permission to juxtapose anytime you want, I believe is the verb form of that. Ted hates tea, so don't put the drugs in tea, Beard. Come on. He hates tea. This is a runner in the show.
And then Beard's line about, I don't say this enough because I generally think it's implied, but trust me.
Beard immediately drains his tea, and Ted does not immediately drain his tea. Beard starts to trip. We see him doing the hand thing on cushions, which is a TV implication that someone is tripping. And Ted's like, hey, man, if you want to leave. Beard's like, I'll see you tomorrow. And he's out. And this leads to Ted texting Rebecca, I guess.
Yeah, and there's like, I mean, a lot of messages back and forth, or not back and forth, but to Ted to her, and a lot of gifts and things like that. It was kind of interesting, but certainly to me, very much pushing this whole Ted Becca relationship thing. Like Ted is not seemingly not just texting her to hang out, like he's texting her, I don't know. Like I feel like he wanted to hang out with Rebecca specifically here, not just kind of as boss. Maybe he wanted. Well, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't think he wanted a relationship.
No,
right
Tom,
here.
let's follow that thread. What do you think's going on? So you think Ted's got a little bit of Rebecca in him, huh?
I mean, again, the internet wants this Ted Becca thing to happen. I still don't know if it probably should happen. I like their relationship as it stands now. I don't probably want them to get romantic, but they're still giving us these hints and clues as many messages as Ted is sending to Rebecca here.
I think these are just friends and coworkers sending each other messages. I don't think it has to be more than that.
Okay.
But I appreciate that you blamed the internet for what you want to happen, which is Ted Becca. This is a great callback. Keely is on the hotel TV, continuing with her crimped hair to tell us about all the lovely places to visit in Amsterdam. Ted eventually breaks down, and he throws that tea back and leaves. Mm-hmm. And not leaves like tea leaves. He leaves the room, like as in movement from one place to another.
Yes. And it was a good cut how it like kind of went back to both the drinks, and it's kind of half empty, but the kind of whatever's left of the tea is kind of moving a little bit. So kind of shows he had just taken a big swig. It was good.
I bet that was hot. That was hot. There's a cut scene where he spits it all out, all over the television like fizzy water. He immediately leaves this place and goes to a Vincent van Gogh exhibit. Tom, you've got 30 minutes to tell us all about Vincent van Gogh.
Is he a Dutch painter? And he cut off his ear. I think it's about the extent of my Van Gogh-ness.
Was he the ear guy?
Yeah, he's the ear guy.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. He's looking at paintings of sunflowers, which is also the state flower of Kansas. Tom, I'm just realizing why the episode was named Sunflower. What a parallel. These guys, these writers, they know what they're doing, right? Speaking of knowing what they're doing, this weird museum guy is giving a Van Gogh speech to a dude that's tripping, which... I don't know what was happening here. What was happening here?
This was kind of weird, but I think ultimately it was just bringing in somebody to be able to give some of these nuggets of wisdom that play on the greater storyline. Again, we get the idea of Van Gogh having like demons, but searching for beauty, which is very similar to what Higgins was saying for the other jazz player. But he gives this line at the end where he says, like, when you know you're doing what you're meant to do, you have to try. So, I mean, my assumption is that's like coaching for Ted. Like Ted doesn't think, he feels almost like he's a failure at coaching and can't figure this out. So he's just, maybe that's what kind of takes him down this rabbit hole of trying to develop a new strategy for the team. But I'm sure you can draw parallels with that phrase and that saying to plenty of other things throughout the show.
Sure. He leaves the museum and he goes to the Museum of American Cuisine, the American restaurant. And this was so much fun. All of the waiters from not America pretending to be American. Everyone's saying howdy. Someone's asking for ranch dressing or delivering ranch dressing in the background. He's right at home. All of this was great.
Yeah. This very much reminded me of like Pulp Fiction, where they go to like Jackrabbit Slim's, where it's just this like very loud, obnoxious kind of music. All the waiters and staff are kind of like dressed up. It was fun. And it was, I think definitely what Ted needed right here.
Exactly. And he's got a rerun of a Chicago Bulls basketball game playing in front of him, and as his pyramid of onion rings is being delivered. And he is discussing, I think, with the waiter about how he used to watch basketball games with his dad.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of get a little bit of like a pre-panic attack. Like the music starts to kind of start crescendoing a little bit, that you think he's going to have one as he starts remembering his dad. But then he jumps back out of it pretty quickly.
And then we get some Bulls triangle offense conversation, which I think I only know if this is a thing because of the last Chance? No. What was the Bulls? The Jordan documentary.
Oh, they did have a documentary.
Last
yeah,
Dance.
I do remember.
That's the one. The Last
Okay.
Chance Dance, I think it was called. And also because a pyramid of onion rings is delivered.
I like how the waitress also calls them freedom fries as opposed to just French fries because it's like American restaurant. Like we don't refer to them as freedom fries, but I thought that was funny. But again, like the idea of triangles just kind of being everywhere, where he makes mention of a pyramid just being triangles. You have Chance the Rapper up on the wall wearing his hat. You know, that's his kind of famous hat with the big 3 on it. The condiments on the table, there's like 3 of them: the ketchup, mustard, and ranch, I guess, that are all kind of aligned as a triangle. It's kind of funny to just see all these references to it.
Oh man, watching this, afterwards I've seen triangles everywhere. Like they point out on the dollar bill in Egypt, all of those things.
Let's say if you want to see some triangles, go watch 1899.
Oh man, yeah. I'd like to watch it sometime. I heard it's good.
Yeah.
They bring out his hometown barbecue sauce.
Arthur Bryant's, which actually has been featured on the show before. Like it's like his laptop background when he's called home, like to Michelle and to Henry. So it's heavily featured, and it is a prominent Kansas City barbecue joint.
Is it not one of the things that his son Henry sends in the care package? There's a way where he takes the cap off of this and he tastes it that I have watched Ted Lasso take the cap off and taste a barbecue sauce multiple times in my life, and I don't know why. But he has a method to it for sure.
Oh, I thought he was going to start swigging it.
Just pours it on a spoon, takes it like cough syrup.
Yes.
He's tripping, right? Well, he's not tripping, but it's kind of like he's tripping. We get this weird true spirit of adventure voice that's talking to him. I thought I recognized the voice, but the longer I listened to it, I did not. We have all the parallels of the triangle stuff. This was trippy, right? This is a show based in the real world, but we've decided that psychics and trippy voices exist.
Yeah, it was fun. It's just like taking Ted like out of it. I don't know if they needed to at the very end say that like he wasn't tripping. Like I feel like this maybe cinematically would make more sense if he actually was on some form of, stimulant or whatever that Baird was going to put in his tea. But it was a cool cinematography how it just pulls his chair back. It gets dark everywhere. We got a spotlight on him. When it starts doing the triangles, you see, the sunflowers get formed in triangles, like the name of the episode. It actually forms a dartboard at one point, which we know Ted is a dartboard fiend. It was cool. It was a cool little sequence. Again, odd and weird, but it was fun.
Sure. Yeah, the fact that he's not tripping, I'm assuming the show concludes with us finding out he has some sort of brain tumor that is pushing on his brain and causing this stuff. No? Am I not allowed to conjecture that?
It wasn't in Rebecca's prophecy, so no. It's
that's
not gonna
fair.
happen.
That's fair.
I do appreciate that we get a birthday song sung by the crew or cast of this restaurant, talking about like how World War II was won by America, but the West was liberated thanks to Canada. I thought that was pretty funny.
I caught the liberated by Canada part. I didn't catch the World War II was won by America. Yeah. Apparently other countries don't sing happy birthday to their patrons, which those of you that don't live here, come visit. Just tell a waiter or waitress it's your birthday. You're bound to get either a free dessert or a song, or sometimes they give you a shot of tequila and shake you with their body parts. But don't ask too many questions. I'll let you discover that one on your own. Ted is like, I don't know, deep in the world of triangles, and he's playing with the condiment bottles as he's writing in this Van Gogh book. And it's very interesting because the staff is all watching.
I love, the staff is like, he's like, he has my pen. Like, there's nothing I can do. But then they make mention of like their manager, Derek, who apparently they all hate, which is, I think, funny because what isn't the Greek
Taste of
restaurant that he
Athens
goes to? Yeah.
Yep.
And Derek is also the manager. I thought that was pretty good.
That was great. This restaurant apparently does not have a jade, though, which was disappointing.
No.
All of this was fun. It brings us back to the conclusion where we all meet back on the bus the next day. And the biggest surprise here is Coach Beard showing up dressed as a clown, speaking Dutch.
Which, don't tell Jan, which I thought was a great line. Like, he's trying to keep the idea of him knowing Dutch, so Jan doesn't talk to him in Dutch, I guess. I don't know. but then eventually comes on the bus wearing this pig nose and dressed like David Bowie, and Ted immediately gets it as Piggy Stardust.
Piggy Stardust. So was he in a David Bowie, we'll go with that.
That's when he's on the water.
I would have gone with the knife maker from the Alamo, but you do yours. That's fine. All right. So he was in a tribute band. We'll find all this out next episode. It doesn't matter. We find out also in the next episode, maybe, but there's going to be some parental guidance warnings that Will was in a threesome, I guess.
Yep. And he has chlamydia.
I thought you were going to make mention of a love triangle, but you went clinical. All right. All grown up now. We find out that Ted's drugs were non-potent. I like that Beard's like, listen, I asked the bus driver, Keith, and he tried them. Yeah. And no good. Keith said there, no good.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts to explain his triangle idea to Beard.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, he pulls out his Van Gogh book that has just, loads and loads of writings and ideas and concepts about this triangle deal, which I thought was a lot of fun. But he's given kind of the heartfelt speech that Ted does, where he's talking about, hey man, these guys just need freedom, need to follow their guts and their hearts. Well, let's kind of playing the slow, fun music. But at the very end, like when he shows, there's a picture of sunflowers on the side, and on the other side, it's kind of the word triangles, but it's like slowly morphing in different phrases, and it eventually ends with tri-angels, which I don't know what that was supposed to mean, but I felt like it was very prominent that they were doing this. And I don't know if we gotten any like angelic or angel references. I don't know what that was trying to tell us.
Well, Tri-Angels was a anti-drug campaign that rivaled DARE, but came from the religious side, where they were like, don't do drugs, try angels. But then angel dust came out as a drug, and that campaign kind of went away. So
backfired.
Yeah. Darn that PCP. Get you every time. The parallels to 1899, I don't know that I recognize them during the show, but since you pointed it out, all the like madness of the writings and all of the triangle stuff, I really do feel like this is obviously the canceled season of 1899, and they're answering some questions here. There's one person on Twitter who I know will be very motivated to find the connection because they're sad that show didn't get renewed. But yeah, it's funny. He's explaining all this, and Beard's like, yeah, it was called Total Football. They invented it in Holland in the 70s. So it's fitting that you came across it in Amsterdam. And he's like, and we should definitely try it.
Yeah, and Beard's very like supportive here. Like this is a good idea, and this is like probably the first actual contribution Ted has given to football strategy. So I like what they did. And do you think like this is going to turn the team around, and they're going to start winning games based on this? I feel like how they've set this up, it kind of is pulling towards that. Like when they started this episode with losing, I'm like, okay, here's what's going to happen. They're going to continue losing, and it's going to be about just Ted bringing these people together and them being better people and blah, blah, blah. But I almost feel like the storyline may try to revert back to them actually winning the Premier League. What do you think?
Yeah, no, if sports has taught me anything in the modern era, it's that drugs help you win. So yes, I find that drugs will be the solution. Ask Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, or Ivan Drago. Drugs help them win. So, and end the Cold War. Or start the Cold War. I don't know. I don't remember. I was rooting for the wrong team. Sorry, I went through a USSR phase. Anyways, Rebecca boards the bus, and Jamie and Roy arrive on bikes.
I like him get the same homeless guy taking the bikes as like Jamie's getting off. It's great.
Yep, he's going to go sell those to someone and make some more money off his stolen bikes. And then they start singing the Bob Marley song from the beginning. So it's a callback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get the Three Little Birds again, and yeah, Rebecca just starts pelting it out. And of course we get Beard joining in, but because he's donned the costume, he's doing his like David Bowie voice impression, which was really fun. But I love the end sequence where again, they start this episode kind of saying how this song is tragic and, Rebecca hates it, but now it's like joyful, and you see the whole crew, everybody on after their amazing adventure through Amsterdam, singing the song and just coming together as a team. And as they kind of slowly pan out, you get all the different kind of character moments. You get a quick little bit where Colin kind of grabs Trent's shoulder, which was beautiful. Got Higgins and Will kind of hanging out next to each other. Will's doing his best air cello or air bass. So it was fun, and it was a great episode. I like the way they finished it here.
Sure. And Beard's David Bowie voice is not nearly as great as Jermaine Clement's David Bowie voice, but
ooh, that's fantastic.
They are on par there. So fun episode, longer one. I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see, since this was mid-season, where we go. I think you're right. I think we're going to see an uptick on the team. We've moved past Zava. I will be interested to see what they do with Rebecca in terms of, at this point, we've hit all the prophecies, right?
I think so. There might be like one or two bits maybe left, but I think we've hit the main ones for sure.
Other than you'll be a mother, right? I guess that would be the only one that we haven't hit. So, no, interested to see where they go. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Once again, just glad this wasn't a Beard-centric episode. Not that I don't love Beard, but that was probably the episode that I liked the least in season 2. But speaking of episodes, next week we will be all together, gathered in this space of your ears, to talk about season 3, episode 7 of Ted Lasso. And that episode, Tom, is called
I'm Not Being Obtuse, But You're Cute. Those little triangle puns for you.
No.
I know what you love puns.
No, I got it. A lot more triangle stuff and very punny. Probably a little timey-wimey if you think about it too hard, which I will not do. No, good, Tom. I liked it. I certainly was not upset. I'm not upset. But for those of you that have stuck with us, I know this was a long one. We appreciate you. You can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. I'm going to take some drugs. Tom, you tell them about the other stuff.
I'm going to enjoy a nice cold Lionel Coogan, and I'm going to join the rest of the Ted Lasso crew on Twitter and Instagram at Team Binge or Team Binge Podcast.
Sure, and if you enjoy this podcast, please hop on any of those places where you can rate and review. Apple Podcasts, their reviews are important. I would like to give a shout out to the person that said we're a great podcast on mute. Big fan of that.
5 stars.
5 stars. It was a great review anyways. I have been Julian.
And I've been Tom. Till next time, everybody. Take care.